my favorite superhero team of all time over the Power Rangers, over the Justice League, over the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, over the Teen Titans, over whomever, the X-Men. I love the X-Men. I don't know what it, well, I do know what it is. I'll do another video as to why I love the X-Men, but for this video, I will be ranking X-Men characters at random. It was a filter that I found on TikTok. I just figured me talking about my ranking systems for the X-Men character is a perfect way to start off me talking about the X-Men on my channel. But before we get started, theme song. So this right here was actually my very first X-Men comic book of all time. I got this when I was in middle school. I believe it was in the 6th or 7th grade. This was the one. This is what did it for me. And it's so old. Look, y'all, it's Staples. Like, it literally is Staples on the scene because I used to read it so many times and it got damaged and it's so old and raggedy. But this is what did it for me. Now, this comic book didn't start my love for the X-Men. What started my love was definitely X-Men, the animated series. I've seen every single episode prior to it being on Disney Plus. So when it came on Disney Plus, I just rewatched every single episode. I've seen every single episode of X-Men the animated series, X-Men Evolution, Wolverine and the X-Men. I've seen every single X-Men film under Fox. I have a lot of thoughts. About the X-Men films, but I'm gonna save that for another video. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, it's gonna be a lot of X-Men content on this channel. I know I talk about hip hop and rap and award shows and culture and music, all that stuff, but I will be discussing the X-Men. Favorite X-Men video game, where are my X-Men Legend fans at? X-Men Legends 1 was cool, but X-Men Legends 2, Rise of Apocalypse, this right here, elite. Literally. Absolutely love this. I think this was for the GameCube, and I still have my GameCube. And granted, I have a lot of traditional X-Men paperback comics, and when I used to go to the store, I would usually just grab these based off the cover, because I would assume whatever the cover got going on is going to be a lot of action on the inside. But yeah, I have a lot of X-Men comics, and I absolutely love every single one that I've had or read a million times. But what I can say is I didn't buy the comics in order. Again, I would just buy them just based off the cover, like, oh, okay, Storm and Callisto, they're about to fight. What is this about? But the storylines will always be patchy to me because I never bought the comics in order. So what I did do, I bought a lot of X-Men encyclopedias. I actually have 2. One is so damn big. This is it right here. One of my X-Men encyclopedias. The other one is literally smaller. It's somewhere over there, but I'm not gonna grab it because I don't feel like it. When I'm reading the characters, they highlighted certain storylines, and it kind of made sense based off of the comics that I had. Like, oh, okay, this is what happened. But I always wanted to know what happened next specifically. It always highlighted the big events, the Mutant Massacre or the Days of Future Past or the whole dissolution and rebirth storyline when they was fighting on Muir Island. But as I got older and as I got a job and actually got money, I took the liberty of finding the comics that actually finish the gaps that I had revolving storylines. Like, I actually wanted to see what happens. I started buying X-Men collection books. I believe these are known as Omnibus. I believe that's the right term for it. But basically, it's a big ass book and it has every single comic that is lined up for that specific storyline written in sequential order. So that way, if you did not buy the comics in order, these right here, they provided the comics in order so you won't get lost. So I just love the X-Men. They're like the best. And as you see, I have my X-Men. I have a lot of X-Men merch. I'm telling y'all, I am a super nerd when it comes to the X-Men. Like, they are literally my number 1. But okay, let's start with the ranking system. I'm going to show my TikTok, show which character pops up, and show the ranking, and then I'm going to explain who that character is, what's their powers, a brief history of that character, and explain why did I decide to rank this character in the position that I gave him. So the first person is Forge. I put Forge at number 8. I like Forge. He's not that important to me. His powers, he's like a technology magician. He can build a machine out of any tools, any computers, whether it's weapons, whether it's a machine for health, whether it's a machine for, I don't know, like a vacuum cleaner, just whatever. Forge is just a technology magician. He has magical hands and he can literally build everything. Forge is like a background character. I do have an appreciation for Forge because it was one specific X-Men storyline. Forge was like running the X-Men because a lot of the X-Men, they were in Australia laying low because they just fought some big villain. I think it was Vargas. It was some major villain and people assumed that the X-Men died. And so they were just off the grid. Forge was on Muir Island with Morph Target, who I cannot... I have a deep hate for Morph Tiger, but let's move on. Muir Island was like a target because it was just like a lot of people knew that this was like a big resource to mutants outside of the Xavier Institute. So with Forge being there, he kind of like assembled his own X-Men. Polaris was on that team. Sonder was on that team. Banshee was on that team. Amanda Sefton, who is one of Nightcrawler's hoes, she was on that team. So yes, that's when I had like an appreciation for Forge because he was like running. He was protecting Muir Island against the Reavers. The Reavers were like a cyberkinetic racist group ran by Donald Pierce. However, he was working alongside Lady Deathstrike, who was a mutant. Before he stood on business. Oh my God, I said I was not going to keep saying that term in 2024. I'm sorry, but Forge did stand on business and he protected Muir Island from the Reavers. So this was like the comic that kind of like introduced me to like really learning to appreciate Forge. And then as I got older, I bought the Dissolution Rebirth Omnibus and it has all the Muir Island storylines in it. And this really made me be like, okay, Forge, I see what you're working with. You're still not like one of the great X-Men in my opinion. Like you're still not like a Wolverine. You're still not like a Colossus. You're still not like a Storm, but we can appreciate you. So yeah, that's why I put Forge at number 8. And also I had to give Forge a low ranking because I didn't know who else was going to be on this list. You know, TikTok was doing this at random. So I had to save the top spots for my faves. So that's why I put Forge at number 8. Let's move on. My next ranking was for Scott Summers, aka Cyclops. Oh my God, I love Cyclops. I really do. And when I say the movies did him horrible, oh my goodness. If you was to read Cyclops in the comics and then see the type of character he was being portrayed as in the movies, a complete 180. What are y'all doing with Cyclops? Cyclops was the first male X-Men student. He wasn't the first X-Men student altogether. The first X-Men student was Jean Grey, even though Jean didn't come to the Xavier Institute until later on. But Cyclops was the first male X-Men student and the very first leader of the X-Men, and the way he was treated in the X-Men movies was horrible. Scott's portrayals in the X-Men animated series, like the first one and the Evolution and Wolverine and the X-Men, I was cool with it. But you know, a lot of people don't watch cartoons. A lot of people do watch movies, and they nerfed Scott so bad. Oh my God. Scott is literally a grand master strategist. He is the perfect superhero leader ever. If you was to compare him with the Red Ranger of the Power Rangers, or Leonardo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Superman, or Batman, or Captain America, or Iron Man, Cyclops is top 5 when it comes to superhero leadership. I'm not even thinking about the Chris Claremont run in the 90s, that Cyclops. I'm thinking about the Cyclops in the early 2000s. Scarlet Witch, she whispered the words, "No more mutants," and it eliminated the X gene from 90% of the mutant population. And prior to that happening, there was a genocide attack on Genosha where millions of mutants lost their lives. You had 2 back-to-back incidents with the mutant population. So Cyclops as a leader, because Professor Xavier, will touch on him later on, Professor Xavier wasn't that damn present. So Cyclops literally had to step into the role of, all right, I have to do what I have to do to keep this mutant community together. For me, reading stories like X-Men, the Messiah Complex, reading stories like X-Men Second Coming, reading stories like X-Men Astonishing X-Men when it was him, Storm, Emma, Wolverine, and Beast and Armor. Reading this right here, this story was massive. It's right here. When Cyclops led this team, when it was Namor, Emma Frost, Hope, Danger, Magneto, Storm, Magic, and Colossus, it was this one scene where the X-Men literally rolled up on space gods and they are looking them dead in their face like, look, this is our planet and we are defending this planet and y'all need to leave. The Celestials, they left. They left. The X-Men was staring down big ass powerful space gods and they got up out of here. Moments like that, you know what I'm saying, it's all because of Cyclops. Just the way he was able to lead the X-Men team through adversity. The whole mutant population was on the brink of extinction, being wiped off. They became endangered species after that Genosha attack, and then they really became endangered species after Scarlet Witch eliminated the X gene from 90% of the mutant population. Cyclops really had a lot on his shoulders. Magneto didn't step up. Xavier didn't step up. Cyclops had to be the front person leading and protecting the mutant race, and he deserves so much credit for that. I love Scott Summers. I have such a big appreciation for Scott Summers. Oh, by the way, I didn't explain Cyclops' powers. So long story short, his mutant powers is powered by the sun. He emits red energy from his eyes, and because of a head injury that he sustained when he was a child, he was jumping off a plane that was burning up because the plane was being attacked by a Shi'ar ship that abducted his mom and his dad. So his parents literally had to take him and his younger brother Alice, push him off the plane with a parachute, and it caught fire. And there was a piece of debris from the plane that hit Scott in the head, and his head injuries prevent him from controlling his powers. So he has to wear special ruby quartz glasses in order to sustain the powerful energy that is in his eyeballs. I know that's a lot. That's the one thing I love about the X-Men. Their stories are so uniquely complicated. But I said all this to say I love Scott Summers. Definitely top 5. I couldn't put him in top 3 because I had to save those 3 spots for a couple of my other faves. But putting him at number 4 was definitely the best. I absolutely love Scott. Mystique. I love Mystique. I really do love Mystique. I was always amused by Mystique. She's just that bitch. She has such a complicated and mysterious background, full of trouble and just full of drama. And you know, she slept with so many people. She slept with Sabretooth, she slept with Iceman, she slept with Wolverine. Oh my god, that storyline between Mystique and Wolverine, woo, a hot mess. A hot mess. She is the mother of Nightcrawler. She's the mother of Great and Creed, and she is the adopted mother of Rogue. Mystique's power, she has the ability to shapeshift into anybody that she pleases. Mystique is she's just complexity. Like, you gotta love Mystique. And I really love Mystique in the first 3 X-Men movies. Like, those were the highlights of the X-Men movies, the Mystique scene. I ranked Mystique at number 5 because, again, she's just one of my favorite X-Men villains, just very unapologetic. Mystique, she just do what she wants. And she's worked with every damn body. She has worked with the X-Men, but she also worked with Magneto, worked with Apocalypse, worked with Mr. Sinister, worked for the government, worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. Mystique, she's that type of person that she just does what she wants. And the very complicated thing about Mystique is her intentions are always weirdly good. She cares about the people that she loves. The main people she cares about is her wife, Destiny, and her daughter, Rogue. Now, she has gained some type of care and appreciation to Nightcrawler, who was a son that she birthed, but her main intentions, the safety of her wife and the safety of her adopted daughter, Rogue, even though she goes to the extremes. Like, we can't figure out like her way of thinking, because it's like, okay, Mystique, did you really have to do this? But then when you're reading her lines in the comments, it's like, oh, okay, well, I understand her intentions, but damn, like for instance, the Messiah Complex storyline, this girl was getting ready to sacrifice a whole baby, the first baby born since M-Day, because she was trying to save her daughter, Rogue. Rogue, you know, had this big major disease where if you touched her skin, you would die on impact. And that was based off of when she led her own team. And I believe she was fighting the children of the vault. And yeah, she was getting ready to sacrifice a whole newborn baby just to save her child. It's crazy, but it's like the things a mother would do to protect her child. Very insane way of thinking, but you just gotta love Mystique. So I do love Mystique. She's definitely in my top 5, so I'll put her at number 5. Again, I had to save those top spaces for my actual phase. I do love Mystique, but there are actual X-Men characters that I love more than Mystique, so that's why I put her at number 5. Let's move on. Ooh, Emma, gotta give her a 2. I love Emma Frost. I love Emma Frost so damn much. The White Queen. Here's the thing. Because when I was a child, you know, when I was in middle school, it took me a while to get adjusted to Emma Frost. Because in my mind, it was like, oh, no. Scott and Jean, Scott and Jean, Scott and Jean. Like, that was the X-Men formula. Jean Grey was the main telepath of the X-Men. And then after Jean Grey, it was Psylocke. And then after Psylocke, it was Rachel. And then after Rachel, it was back to Jean Grey. That was my way of thinking of having telepath being on the team. So when Emma Frost joined the team, I was like, Emma Frost is a villain. Who added her to the X-Men? She served on the Hellfire Club, and she and Storm, they got into it, you know? Emma Frost body swapped with Storm because she was trying to use Storm's powers to take over the world and so. So me growing up, in my mind, Emma Frost is always a villain. So when they made Emma Frost be an X-Men member, it was like, what are we doing here? But shout out to the writers, because I'm so glad that y'all did that. I love Emma Frost. I really do. Emma Frost represents classism. She represents elitism. She represents A-list. She represents fabulousness. She represents classiness. And Emma Frost is just that rich, snobby bitch. But I love her. Emma Frost is an Omega level telepath, just like Professor Xavier, just like Jean Grey, but also she has the ability to transform her skin into diamond. And that's like such a bad bitch power to have. You being a powerful telepath that you can go toe to toe with Xavier, go toe to toe with Exodus, go toe to toe with Jean Grey, but you also have the ability to turn your skin into diamond so you can clock in and beat niggas' ass whenever you feel like it. I love the way the writers reintroduced Emma Frost to join the X-Men team. She really made me not miss Jean Grey when Jean Grey was dead for like 15 years, and they decided to bring her back like a good 7 years ago. Emma Frost just has, again, she has a complicated history with the X-Men. She left the Hellfire Club and she decided to build her own school with Banshee, and they trained up their own gang of mutants. And then she moved to Genosha. She was teaching on Genosha. And after that attack that I mentioned earlier, where the mutant population was pretty much in danger because, you know, they were being by Sentinels sent from, I forgot who sent, I think it was probably Bastion that attacked the citizens of Genosha and the mutant community of Genosha. And that is when Emma Frost's secondary mutation of her transforming her skin into diamond, because she was trying to save one of her students and her student ended up dying. That is what transitioned Emma over to the X-Men. So the way they introduced her, wow, like y'all really broke this woman down. She really is putting all of her pride aside to fight for the survival of the mutant community. One major factor that I love about Emma Frost that separates her from all the other X-Men women characters, Emma is not no damn damsel in distress. She ain't that type of girl where it's like, oh my God, somebody please help me. No, she is a take charge type of woman. She don't have time for the dramatic. She don't have time for the foolishness. Emma Frost has a quote unquote bitchy attitude, but the reason why she has that attitude is because she has to face a lot of problems and make a lot of hard decisions being in a leadership role. So she don't have time for the, no, don't do this, and no, we just need, no, she don't have time for that. She don't have time for the foolishness. She don't have time for the chitter chatter. Let's get to the point and keep it pushing.
Shoot her down.
Are you insane?
It's her or Africa. You choose.
There was a scene in the House of M storyline where the Avengers and the X-Men, they were coming together to figure out what to do with Wanda because she's caused so much chaos and her powers are so damn dangerous. So the Avengers, they kept talking around in circles saying, I don't know what to do. Dr. Strange, he said he's all out of options. And then Professor Xavier, he tried to help her and Wanda made his nose bleed. And he's like the most powerful telepath. If he can't help her, who else can help her? So Emma Frost was like, bruh, all this dramatics, let's put her down. That's literally what she said, put her down. Where everybody jumped up and was like Spider-Man and Captain America and Iron Man, they was like, what? We can't put her down. She's a human being. She's not a dog and she's our sister. Da, da, da. No, how can you say that? And Emma Frost was like, let me tell you something. If this is a level 5 threat, then we need to eliminate the threat. What y'all talking about? We need to put this bitch down. And that is how she cleared the room. That's the one thing about Emma Frost. It don't matter who you are, okay? She don't have time for the bull. She is there to get done. Literally standing on business. There I go, saying standing on business again. I said I was gonna leave that phrase in 2023. Damn you, TikTok. Nobody can make me hate Emma Frost. Emma Frost is the type of girl that will go on a humanitarian mission, or somebody just survived the earthquake, a house fire, some type of big major human crisis event where everybody is in distress, their clothes are up, they are dirty, they are crying, they are on the floor begging for mercy, praying to God. And Emma Frost is that type of girl that's just gonna step off the X-Jet in an expensive looking white outfit. She most likely will have fur, white boots, high heels, hair is curled and everything, just looking straight up glamorous. Like, yeah, I'm here to do good, but I'm a superhero that got style. One of the only superheroes that consistently have style. You just gotta love Emma Frost. Gotta love Emma Frost. So I put her at number 2. Definitely one of my faves. Magic. Gotta give her a 7. I have a thing for bitchy blondes. Illyana Rasputin, she is the sister of Colossus. Her mutant power, she has the ability to teleport. And when I mean teleport, it's not like, you know, Nightcrawler, Mystic teleportation. Like, that's her main mutant powers. But she's also trained in the mystic art. She is one of the biggest mystic warriors ever. Her whole character history is so complicated. I can't even break it down. That's how complicated it is. It's just like when you read it, it's like, damn, this bitch went through a lot. But that's why she has a bitchy attitude. I love Illyana, aka Magic. We were first introduced to her through the New Mutants. I put Magic at number 7 because I love Magic, but let's be clear, there are other top spots that I need to make sure my faves have. So number 7, lucky number 7. I felt like that was an appropriate ranking for Magic. Jean, gotta give her 3. I don't know why TikTok listed her name as Phoenix. Her name is not Phoenix. Her name is Jean Grey. Jean Grey has the ability, the special ability. She is a very powerful telekinetic, but she is also a powerful telepath. And it's very rare for a mutant to have both telepathy and telekinesis. Jean is literally that girl. Jean Grey was the first lady of the X-Men. She was the first Xavier student, but she was also the first woman X-Men team member. Polaris was the second, but she was part of the original 5. It was Scott, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast, and Angel. And I grew up loving Jean. Remember, as I said with Emma Frost, it took me a while to get out of the notion of, wait a minute, Emma Frost is replacing Jean. That's not how this goes, because I was such a Jean lover. I'm always gonna credit Jean for being like the first person. I believe she was the first. Yeah, I believe she was the first person to kick off major X-Men events. The X-Men comic books, I will always refer to them based off of a major event. There's always like a big event involving the X-Men. So, as I touched on, was the Messiah Complex, and then like the Mutant Massacre, or Second Coming, or X-Men Utopia, X-Men versus Avengers, House of X, Days of Future Past. I forgot the official name of the X-Men event, but basically, as I referenced earlier, when Genosha was attacked by Sentinels, and then the House of N, like all of these are considered X-Men events. I don't know if other comic books, in terms of superheroes, if they do that the way that the X-Men do it, you know, have their storylines be categorized by events, whether it's Marvel or DC, but I know X-Men, they do that a lot. And I will always credit Jean because she kicked off the very first X-Men event, if I can remember. I don't think there was another X-Men event before this, but well, maybe the giant size X-Men, that would be considered like the first major X-Men event. But the main X-Men event I will always consider is the Dark Phoenix saga. You know, when Jean Grey adopted the alien entity of the Phoenix, and you know, she did this trying to save the world, and next thing you know, the Inner Circle, the Hellfire Club, which Emma Frost was a member of, one of the members, Jason Wingard, he got into her mind, turned Jean Grey evil. Well, not turned Jean Grey evil, turned the personality of the Phoenix, because it was a cosmic entity, turned the personality of the Phoenix evil, and that caused Jean to like spiral out of control and attack everybody. The Shi'ar had to intervene, and you know, Jean, she had to sacrifice herself, and that was like one of the biggest major X-Men deaths ever. Jean dying was a big deal, but you know, she had to die in order to save the universe. So I will always credit Jean being like the first person to kick off major dramatic X-Men events. Another thing about Jean, I don't know what's up with the X-Men writers, but they just love killing off Jean. Again, I believe Jean Grey was the first major X-Men death. So it was like this theme of like, oh, let's kill Jean again. And it was like, well, damn, y'all just gonna have her be disappear from the comics again for another 20 years. And they just killed her off recently, as in last year, a couple months ago, in the House of X storyline at the Hellfire Gala. It's like, how many times are y'all gonna kill Jean Grey? But one of the aggravating things that I hate involving the X-Men writers in terms of Jean, instead of just keeping Jean Grey on the team, they are always introducing different versions. So we got Madeline Pryor. Madeline Pryor is literally a clone of Jean, created by Mr. Sinister, and he took DNA samples from Jean Grey and created a clone. He wanted Madeline Pryor, who looked like Jean Grey, to pursue Cyclops, because Cyclops was mourning Jean Grey, because as I said, Jean died, and procreate and create a baby, because he knew the genetic potential of that baby was going to be a powerful mutant. So that was his goal. And then once Madeline Pryor gave birth to the baby named Miss Cable, his intentions was to take Cable and manipulate the genes of Cable and expand his powers and allow Cable to work for him. So yeah, they had Madeline Pryor. She was a clone of Jean Grey. Then they had Rachel Grey, who is the daughter of Jean, but she's the daughter of Jean from an alternate universe, the Days of Future Past universe. Then they brought in Hope Summers. She looks like Jean Grey, but she has no connection to Jean at all. She just has red hair and she always wear green outfits, you know, kind of like reminding us of Jean Grey. And it's just like, bro, why y'all keep creating all these Jean Grey variations? Just bring back the original Jean Grey. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know why they included Morph on here. Morph is only known from X-Men, the animated series. He has no type of presence in the comics. Now, Morph goes by a different name in the comics. His name is Changeling, which is just such a weird name. Mind you, this is how he looks. Like, look at this costume. He looks like a loser. Like, what are we doing here? And this is how you may recognize him in X-Men the animated series. He has the same powers as Mystique. He can transform his body into anything, anybody, transform his voice, transform his clothes, whatever. However, he's nothing compared to Mystique. He's a nobody. He's irrelevant. Why is he on this list? So that's why I put him at number 9. I would have put him at number 10, but I was going to save the number 10 spot just in case there was a character that popped up that I really, really hated, aka Beast. I'm not even going to expound on that topic. Beast is my least favorite X-Men. Moving on. Magneto. Putting him at 6. Let's get something clear right here, right now. Magneto is not a villain. I repeat, Magneto is not a villain. Forget what you've seen in the movies. Forget what you've seen in the animated shows. Forget what you've seen in the video games. He is, in the public, marketed as one of the X-Men's biggest villains. Magneto is not a villain. He just has a different point of view and a different way of doing things from the X-Men. X-Men's path is we're going to defend those that hate and fear us. Because the X-Men are mutants, they experience racism. So their standpoint is, y'all don't like us because we were born as mutants, but at the end of the day, we're heroes. So we're going to save you. You can cuss us out. You can throw bricks at us. You can just throw out as much vitriol as you want to. But I'm going to do my job as a hero. That is the X-Men stance. Magneto's stance, backstory, Magneto is a Holocaust survivor. He experienced the evilness of humans. So now him being a mutant, he has that trauma in his mind. Magneto's standpoint is, look, I am not going to be in the line of fire anymore. My childhood has been obliterated because I was born a certain way. I was born Jewish. And now that I am a mutant, a Jewish mutant man, I refuse to experience the same thing I experienced as a child, but also I refuse to allow my mutant community to go through the same things that I went through as a child. So it's not about Magneto being evil, and his intentions 100% spot on. What the do I look like trying to make nice with the human race when they don't even give a damn about us? They are racist towards us. They are prejudiced towards us. Why on earth am I trying to make nice with them? I'm going to build my own, and I'm going to conquer my own, and I'm going to elevate the mutant race, because they look at us as a threat. So we need to step into our potential and let them know we are a threat. Do not with us. That is Magneto's standpoint. He is not a villain. Magneto is not a villain. Also, important thing for me to know, when I started reading comics, like I said, which one? This was my first X-Men comic book right here. But when I started reading X-Men comics, the traditional paperback comics, Magneto was on the X-Men. Like, I grew up with Magneto being on the X-Men team. Charles Xavier was not in these stories. He was not in these stories. Magneto was the headmaster of the X-Men because Charles Xavier, I believe he was in space. This nigga just kept going to space and kept going on secret missions. And it's like, okay, damn it, Xavier. If you just want to live in space and be with Landra, go right ahead. Because why you keep taking your ass to space, boy? Magneto is a part of the X-Men. Magneto has always been a part of the X-Men. So how can he be a villain if he's actually on the quote-unquote superhero team of the X-Men? He's not a villain. They just have different points of views. I love Magneto. And I didn't explain his powers, but his powers is pretty much self-explanatory. He is an Omega level mutant, and he has the ability to control electromagnetism. Simple. So I put Magneto at number 6. Mystique being at 5 and Magneto being at 6. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's, yeah. I do like Mystique more than Magneto, but I do respect Magneto more than I respect Mystique. Yeah. But yeah, that's my stance on Magneto. Love Magneto. Ooh, my boy. Yikes. Oh shit. Okay. I'm putting Gambit at 1. The reason why I put Gambit at number 1 is because Gambit is part of my top 5 favorite X-Men. My top 5 favorite X-Men is no particular order: Storm, Gambit, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Emma Frost. And Emma Frost and Gambit, these are the two that popped up during this whole TikTok filter game. So, of course, they're going to be in my top 5. Now, I was doing my best to save those spots for my phase, but, you know, they didn't pop up. So that's why I put Scott and Jean and Mystique in those spots. But I love Gambit, so I had to put him at number 1 because, again, he's part of my top 5. Now, what I love about Gambit, first of all, as a child, I just thought his powers were so cool. Like throwing playing cards and so they can explode. That is like the coolest thing ever. We've never seen superheroes do that. That's another reason why I really love the X-Men. Everybody's powers were just so unique. The X-Men sets of powers, you're not going to see that on the Justice League. You're not going to see that on the Avengers. You're not going to see that with the Fantastic Four. All of them, they just got basic ass powers. But the X-Men powers, the writers of the X-Men, Chris Claremont, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, all of them, they really took the time to expand their creativity and give everybody in the X-Men a unique set of abilities, a unique set of powers, and a unique backstory, which is why I'm just like, the X-Men are just the best. I love it. So yes, Gambit has the ability to charge any object with potential energy, and when he throws it, it explodes. Violent, deadly, and I love it. Love my boy Gambit. One of the main reasons why I love Gambit is he is not a Boy Scout. He don't give a about any or everything. His energy to me is similar to Emma Frost's energy. We don't have time for the dramatics. We don't have time to honor the dynamics. We don't have time to do things in order. What do you need done? Hurry the up so we can get the job done. There was this one scene in X-Men Utopia. Basically, Rogue, Gambit, and Danger, they were teleported because the X-Men, they were trying to save lives, right? And so Scott, he was like, Rogue, why are you with Gambit and Danger, number 1? And number 2, girl, don't try to act like you got some type of clout in the X-Men. You made it seem like you wasn't a member anymore. Scott doing all this talking, and Gambit's like, boy, get to the point. And Rogue was like, Remy, yo, chill. And Scott was like, no, he's right. This is the point. Because what are we discussing here? What are we discussing? Like, Scott, again, I love Scott. He is a master strategist. He is like one of the best X-Men leaders ever. But boy, come on with all of that. What's the job? That's why I love Gambit. Like, he ain't gonna bite his tongue for anybody. There was another scene in this book right here. X-Men Legacy, Divided He Falls. Basically, long story short, Scott and Xavier, they get into it, and then Gambit just stays behind, and Xavier tried to throw shade like, well, you've always been slow. And Gambit, he clapped back, was like, see, look, You can fool an honest man like Cyclops, but you can't fool a thief. And then Xavier's like, well, what do you mean? You think I'm bluffing? And he was like, boy, I grew up on the streets of New Orleans. I can spot when somebody is lying. And for your little lie right now, I'm going to give it a slow hand clap. Like, I love Gambit, dog. Like, he be calling people out. He is not intimidated by anybody. He don't give a. He's legit like one of my favorite superheroes of all time. And he's the best. He's the best. So that's why I got him at number 1. Oh, perfect. Number 10. The only reason why I'm putting Xavier at number 10 is because I can't move any of the rankings. So I had to put Xavier at number 10. Now, honestly speaking, for it to be a fair ranking for me, I would have moved Morph down to number 10, dead last. I would have moved Forge down to number 9 because I don't have a problem with Forge, but he's just a there character. And I would have put Professor Xavier at number 8. I respect Xavier because if it wasn't for him, there would be no X-Men. If he didn't go out his way to find these hurt mutants and bring them on to his school and train them how to use their powers, we wouldn't have the X-Men. So I respect Professor Xavier for that. But maturing is realizing, oh, wow, Xavier, you really are a piece of. I find myself questioning a lot of Xavier's actions because when we were introduced to Xavier, we're thinking his intentions are good. He is there to help mutants and he is there to instill the value of protecting those that hate and fear us. He is the opposite viewpoint of Magneto. Professor Xavier's standpoint is, I'm going to do my best to find a way so that mutants and humans can coexist and live together in peace and harmony. Professor Xavier has my respect. That's number 1. Okay. I believe because of this book right here, I think this book is the main reason why I find myself questioning Professor Xavier, because this book pretty much took all the secrets that Xavier has done in the past, and it pretty much exposed it. For instance, the whole Gabriel Summers incident. Apparently, when the X-Men, they went on a mission and they were captured, Professor Xavier reached out to another group of mutants, Gabriel Summers, who is the brother of Scott Summers, Cyclops, and Alex Summers, Havok. Basically, he was the third long-lost brother, right? And Professor Xavier knew that, but he kept that secret from Cyclops or whatever. So he hired this team so they can rescue the X-Men. When they go to rescue the X-Men, all of them, except for Cyclops, dies, including Cyclops' brother, Gabriel. And so what Professor Xavier did, he erased Cyclops' memory of that mission, right? Because Xavier, he's a powerful telepath. He erased the memory from Cyclops' mind, and he hired another set of X-Men. The other set of X-Men was the Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Banshee, you know, Sunfire. That X-Men to go rescue the original X-Men. Jean, Beast, Angel, Havoc, Polaris, you know. It was later on revealed, this was in the X-Men Deadly Genesis storyline. Wow, Xavier, you kept this secret for how long and why? And Cyclops was very much pissed about it, because I would have been pissed about it too. What do you mean that my long lost brother, that I was on a mission with him? And what do you mean I witnessed everybody dying and you erased the memory from my head? Like, nigga, you really crossed the line. Another crazy moment, he promised Rogue that he was gonna help control her powers and pretty much like giving her false hope. But apparently Xavier really didn't have the skills, but he was being manipulative. So he led her on and she's in tears like, but you promised. And he's like, well, you need to earn my trust. So you need to prove your worth to me. And in real life, all you had to do, I'm doing more research to figure out how I can control your powers. You know, Xavier was just extremely manipulative. He was extremely manipulative. Yes, he sought out these individuals, and especially when they needed help or whatever. My perspective on Xavier really changed by reading these books. And this was, again, when I was a freshman in high school, and I was like, Wow, I'm really questioning Professor Xavier. His intentions are good, but again, Xavier, complicated character. I don't want people to get fooled like Xavier is this big, wholesome, mutant character that cares about the world and cares about the people. He has a lot of skeletons in his closet, and the skeletons, they came out. They really did come out. I have a hate-love relationship with Xavier, but one thing that I do love, I love the scenes with Xavier and Gambit working together. Like, the two of them is such a very interesting and dynamic pair to have a Omega level telepath with Gambit, who is a thief and has mad skills. He can fight and he has very unique powers. I loved those missions when it was just the two of them going on missions together as a duo, doing whatever it is that they were doing. Pretty much Xavier was leading the charge. I would love to see more of that in future X-Men media, just Gambit and Xavier working side by side together. That just, it pleases me for some reason. But yes, those are my rankings of X-Men characters, my blind rankings of X-Men characters. Like I said, my top 5: Gambit, Rogue, Nightcrawler, Storm, Emma Frost. Those are my top 5. 2 out of my 5 were on this list, and that's why they got the positions that they received. And again, y'all, expect more X-Men content because these are my favorite superheroes, and I will be deep diving into more X-Men content because I love the X-Men. Shout out to all my X-Men fans out there. I know you guys are on Twitter, you know. I want to give a shout out to Blurred Without Fear, and I want to give a shout out to Comics Explained. They keep me updated with what the current X-Men storylines are, and this is very important to me because trying to keep up with comics is a lot, especially if you work a full-time job, if you're doing content creation on the side. And you know, I don't want to be ignorant. I want to be aware of what's currently going on with the X-Men, but I'm also not about to be buying comic books, traditional single comic books, you know, every week or every other month when they come out. Shout out to the X-Men. What do you guys think of my X-Men ranking? Did I do a good job of explaining my rankings and explaining the characters and highlighting some of their publication history? I hope I did. And I hope I didn't lose y'all, because y'all know I like to ramble a lot. So I will do my best next time to try to concise my points, because I can go on and on about the X-Men. I really can. I appreciate you guys for making it all the way to the end of this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And keep up with me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The links are in the description box below. And I will see you on the next episode.